What's up, y'all? The media police, well, they're after Urban Meyer again. It just never ends. I'll talk about it today on Locked On Jaguars.
You are Locked On Jags, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's happening, man? It's hump day. It's Wednesday. Got a lot of stuff to talk about. Cuts yesterday. Waiver wire pickups today. Let's just get into it. We're not going to bury the lead, though. We're going to get to that in segment 2 and segment 3. Because once again, we got to talk about something else. Urban Meyer was asked a question by a good friend of mine, Gene Fournette from the Florida Times Union yesterday, Jacksonville.com. Just basically asked him about the cuts and if the vaccine and the vaccinations had anything to do with it. Urban said it played a role, basically, paraphrasing. You know, it was a bit of a factor. Played a role or something like that. And here come the police. And what I mean by the police is the media police and wondering if folks' rights were violated. And the NFLPA is apparently wanting to investigate it. There are a couple of things at play here. I ain't going to try to be an investigative reporter because that's not what I'm trying to do. But this is where, you know, guys want honesty from people and then they get honesty. And then that honesty turns out to be something that you got to talk about and you got to defend it or you got to do whatever. For the record, the NFLPA is not here to determine whether or not Urban Meyer told the truth. This isn't about him being honest or dishonest. It's about the thing that he was honest about. Was it right or wrong? So we don't want to, regardless of how you feel about it, we don't want to mix these two situations up. You know, we don't want to sit here and act as if we don't get what's going on and try to hide behind the fact that he was honest. If I go down here and steal somebody's car and then the police pull me over and did you steal the car? Yeah. Guess what? I still go to jail. Being honest about something that's not right doesn't absolve you from it. But the question is whether what happened was right or wrong. I don't have a problem with it. And this isn't to take a political stance about being vaccinated or not being vaccinated. But what it is the NFLPA kind of agreed that they were going to set up these rules where vaccinated people and non-vaccinated people that come in contact with either COVID or people that have COVID-19, that there was going to be different protocols, right? If those protocols affect availability for a number of players, the coaches have a right to use that to determine, like, if things are even between you and another guy and you and another player, and you're like number 52 on the roster, and the guy that's number 54 is about as good as you are, but he's vaccinated, yeah, that might factor into it. We'll take less risk by having that other guy around. You ain't going to see a guy like one of the starters or one of these guys that's the best player on the team affected by it because teams aren't stupid. And you got to have some common sense. You got to know if you're a player who's not vaccinated, you have to know that, you know, with teams forfeiting games, and we're having to forfeit games in certain scenarios, you kind of have to understand and kind of have to dig the fact that for you to come back and work and get paid your salary this year, that the NFLPA is going to make a deal, and everybody involved. I'm going to tell you something. There's a lot of people that want y'all vaccinated, that want people vaccinated. They were not down for vaccinations. They became down for vaccinations when they knew their bottom line was going to be affected. And it's always that way. So look, I get it, but those are the people that employ you. You got to do what you got to do. Now, there are a lot of people that argue that it's common sense to be vaccinated. I had a client earlier it was funny. I mean, I'm just being honest with you. Dude said he has a cousin that's on cocaine. He says, I ain't putting that vaccination in my body. He's like, what? You know, it's like, okay. And I know we joke about it, but it's not a laughing matter because I know people that lost their lives. I know a lot of family members that lost their lives because of this. And it's not really about politics with me at this point for doing this podcast. I mean, I'll have that argument with people all day personally, but it's just that we when something happens, we have a tendency to mix the message. And no one's going to investigate Urban Meyer for him being honest. That has nothing to do with it. And I'm laughing at people who are saying he was honest, so that ought to mean something in the long run. What? If what he was honest about is the thing that they're mad at, I get it and I understand it. And then an investigation doesn't necessarily mean that every time we hear a word investigation, we think that the person being investigated is somehow a victim. No, if you don't have nothing to hide in an investigation, you know what an investigation is? It might exonerate you as long as the investigation is fair. So the bottom line is this is just another thing that the Jaguars are dealing with about stuff that has absolutely almost nothing to do with the product that you'll see on the field on Sunday. Almost nothing to do with anybody getting better. That we're going to sit here and argue about guys who were fringe players on the roster, and it's just another distraction. It wouldn't be so bad if all the other stuff wouldn't have happened, right? Like signing Tim Tebow and hiring that strength and conditioning coach and all of these things. But what Urban is learning, and a bigger thing is this, he's learning something. When you're really, really honest, and this is why guys in the past, I wouldn't say we're liars, but this is why coaches in the past gave you information on a need-to-know basis. It's because why start a fire? You always hear about guys not getting put on teams, whether it's Colin Kaepernick, Tim Tebow, whoever, because it's going to be a distraction, right? So if that's the case, if actually adding a player that could help your team as a distraction, then maybe sometimes you also have to prevent saying certain things, lose a bit of the candidness with the media to not be as honest. Unfortunately, sometimes that's what helps your football team. What helps your football team is tell people stuff on a need-to-know basis. Just start refusing to answer the question. I ain't worried about that, because your answer is going to lead to what we saw today, the team officially releasing an apology that I don't know was necessary or warranted. But it's the fact that you feel like it had to be done. I'm kind of just getting tired of the whole next day, let's say this and let's say that. Telling us at halftime, I don't want to look like this. I'm trying to run this and they're trying to run that. That's cool. It's good stuff for us on radio. But at some point, if we don't want it out there and the whole debate about whether or not Urban's going to be good, the same people that sit here and want to be nosy and the same people that sit here and want honest answers probably need to understand what comes with the territory. That when you do that, people are going to analyze every single thing that happens. If you don't want the analysis, if you don't want the constant attention, then give up some of the candidness and some of the openness and some of the transparency. Keep it. I don't want to know. If we got to talk about that stuff over and over again, you can keep all that. It's almost like, what good does it do you to know certain stuff? And I'm not getting on Gene for answering the question, but it's just like we have this thirst to know every single detail. Sometimes we can't handle what comes with it. And what we can't handle is the people I mentioned when this all first started, the police. And I call them the police because that's pretty much what they act like sometimes in the media. Everybody really, really wants to lock in and know every single thing that's going on. And then a lot of it's led by the fact that there are people that probably don't want to see Urban Meyer successful. Or there are people that believe they want to be right about whether he'll be successful or not. So you know what they do? They do stuff like this. They look for stuff, man. I'm looking over my shoulder here, make sure nobody ain't sneaking up on me. But yeah, so look, we're gonna get into it. We're gonna talk about the cuts and some of the additions that the Jaguars made, what the team looks like moving forward, some things that Urban said that people misunderstood me about yesterday. We'll do it in just a second here on segment 2 of Locked On Jaguars. Bet Online. What is betonline.ag? man, it is the best place for you to go and make your wagers on the sporting events because they're your online sports experts, right? And you know it's that time of year when toe meets leather in both college and pro football. And as always, BetOnline is your number one spot for the pro and college football action this season. Get all the updated odds, props, contests, including online's biggest $500,000 NFL mega contest. Now, it's a $500,000 mega contest and the world's largest $200,000 NFL Survivor contest open now at BetOnline. Head to the website and use your mobile device to sign up today and receive your 100% welcome bonus. Now, you got to make sure that you take care of the opening day super promo by making a bet on the Cowboys and the Bucs game on Thursday night, September 9th. If you do that, your wager, if you lose, is going to be refunded up to $25 for new customers only when you're signing up and using the promo code NFL100. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet all your favorite sports. Make sure to take advantage of that 100% welcome bonus. Use the promo code LOCKED ON. All right, man, we're going to roll along here on a Wednesday, a hump day. You know, sometimes I put these Wednesday shows out late because the NFL, Locked On NFL show with me and James Rapine was put out this morning. It was a quarterback show, and it features some information about all the quarterbacks, including Trevor Lawrence. So that's why you're getting this afternoon pre-drive time edition of Locked On Jaguars. All right, make sure you check out the Ultimate Season Preview. It's already going on, in fact. It's where all of the Locked On hosts got together and we did a division-by-division preview, and we teamed up with Odyssey. Odyssey's Ross Tucker and Jason Lockenfor, and you got to follow the Ultimate Season Preview 2021 feed on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcast to tune in. Starting now, and it'll run through September 8th. So the cuts, any cut surprises yesterday? Not if you heard my show. If you heard my show, I was surprised that Taven Bryan made the team. I did tell you that I thought Colin Johnson would be in a little bit of trouble. I did mention that they did not cut Tavon Austin. He's injured right now. He has some sort of designation, but they let go of everybody. They kept 5 wide receivers. Now, they signed Tyrone Johnson today, who was waived by the Chargers. I actually saw him play in the preseason, and I was impressed, and I thought, wow, they got a nice little find there as a rotation guy in their receiving core, and then they let him go because I think their numbers are strong. But he's a perfect addition to this team because of how he plays and what he adds. He can really, really, really press those routes with his ability. He's a good route runner and he catches the ball. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do in the Jaguars uniform. Quentin Williams will be going to play. Well, Quincy Williams will be going up to New York to play with his brother. He was let go. I figured he wasn't going to make the team. I was shocked. Dewey's still on the team at safety. And I think Josh Jones has an injury designation, but the defensive backs went sort of the way I thought they were going to go, especially after Sidney Jones was traded. The offensive line, you knew who the 9 guys were. I had him keeping 3 tight ends, and I had him keeping 3 running backs. And Ozigbo is the guy that I had. How do you say his name? Obenawale. I had him staying. And he just looked better in the preseason. 33 just looked a little bit better than 24 did. So they pretty much did everything I thought they were going to do. They kept those 2 quarterbacks instead of 3. No serious surprises with the exception, like I said, of Taven. I actually got the edge guys right. I sure did. I have them keeping 5 when you don't include Smoot. So I think I was off maybe 3 or 4 guys. I picked 49 out of the 53. And I think I might have picked 50 out of 53 if I'm not mistaken, but that's pretty good. Pretty good. You know, you kind of had your finger on the pulse of the team. I do believe I missed 2 wide receivers, and I think I missed the safety. And I missed Taven, so they know it's 4. I was 49 out of 53 in terms of who I thought they were going to keep, which I said after the first or second preseason game that the Jaguars basically were they probably had 46, 47 guys they knew what it was going to be about, and then injury situations as well as depth and what they thought they could pick up in a waiver wire would affect the last 5, 6, 7 picks. So really, you know, guys got hurt. You know, that would affect everything. Like Tavon Austin, that was one that was up in the air because you didn't know because he was injured, and Josh Jones. And then when Clay Brooks was hurt against Dallas, you had to wonder if he messed up his opportunity, but apparently he didn't. So good for him and good for them. What kind of team do they have now? I think they'll be all right. I think they pretty much, without Travis Etienne, they have what they would have been comfortable with. What I mean by that is, if you'd asked them at the beginning of preseason or before training camp what type of team they wanted, obviously Travis Etienne is the big one. That's the big one that is different from what they thought they might have available to them when they started playing from an identity perspective. But other than that, I think they ended up okay after training camp, and they look probably how they thought they were going to look after they made all of the offseason acquisitions. So I think they got to be pretty happy with that. Now, that doesn't mean that this is who they want to be moving forward. I think they need people to step up. They need people to step up to fulfill that potential, because you can't trade everybody and get rid of everybody all in one season. I'm going to tell you exactly if the Jaguars are going to look on the field the way that this coaching staff wants them to look. I'm going to tell you the guys that are going to be responsible for that, because right now on paper, I think they ended up right where they thought they were going to end up, with the exception of the fact that Travis Etienne is out for the season, and that's a big deal. But I'll tell you the guys that I think need to step up in order for them to be really, really good. And I'll do it in segment number 3 here on a Wednesday on Locked On Jaguars. Got to tell you about DirecTV Stream. You need to get your TV together. That's right. I love that. Get it together. If it sounds familiar, you've got one device that lets you catch the game, one device that allows you to stream your other favorite shows, and you're watching sports highlights on your phone, and you've got your neighbor's best friend's login for the good stuff. Well, I don't want you to think that it's a simple way to get all of that stuff, but it is, without the hassle, and a great way to finally get your TV together. That's right. There's only one place. Don't think you can go do this anywhere. You have to do it with DirecTV Stream. And it brings your live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before, so you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. That means no more juggling remotes and no need to buy another device ever again. And the best part, the absolute best part, get this. It's all in one place. That's right. So get rid of the clutter and the confusion and get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. You can learn more at directtv.com. That's directtv.com. Compatible devices required. Content varies by package. Built Bar. What is Built Bar? The best taste protein bar ever. That's what it is. Been telling you about Built Bar for a long time now, and you ought to know what my 2 favorites are: salty caramel and raspberry. But they have 7 other flavors, and I'm telling you, they're all super, super delicious. Covered with 100% chocolate and just absolutely tasty. You can get them at BuiltBar.com. And if you're trying to work out, listen, first of all, they taste like you shouldn't be eating them, but that's not the case, because they're packed with protein, very low carbs, very low sugar. And I'm telling you, man, you're just going to love them. All right. So go to BuiltBar.com, read up on all the information, and you can get 15% off of your first order when you use the promo code LOCKED15. That's right. Low carbs, low sugar, low calories, and packed with protein, and they taste good. Built Bar at BuiltBar.com. Try that salty caramel, man, and thank me later. All right, man, so we're rolling along here on a hump day. The question that I put up to you guys was this: do you think the Jaguars on paper look the way that they thought they would look once they made all of the acquisitions? Now, you make all your acquisitions in the offseason. You draft, you do free agency. You know what you have on your team. You come to camp, right? What do you hope for by the end of camp? What do you hope to see? I think they hope to see the development of Trevor Lawrence. They got it. He has the it factor. I think they wanted to see the offensive line be as good as they thought. That is still up for debate. And the reason why it's up for debate, because guys haven't been healthy. Okay. I think they wanted to see the defensive line that they invested so much in get right. They can stop the run. Now it's still a little bit incomplete because you want to see what they look like with a healthy Josh Allen with Hottie on the other side of him, right? I think Jahad Ward's going to start. I don't know that for a fact, but he seems like kind of playmaker that they're ready to go with right now. Did they want to see this new revamped, reshaped, athletic defensive backfield shake out? I think it's a little bit incomplete for two reasons. One is because Tyson Campbell still can't play the ball, but the safeties, I believe, have lived up to the billing, and they have seemed to turn the corner to get their most talented player, in my opinion, which is C.J. Henderson, at least in the secondary. They got him to the point where he's comfortable, he understands what they expect, and they've been able to push the right button and get the best out of him. So I think it's a little bit incomplete, but it's definitely improved. The front seven is going to really, really help that, because those young guys will be able to jump balls and just play ball. And I think they tackle real well in the open field, and I think that's critical. We saw that last year with the Bucs, how they tackled in the Super Bowl when the guys from the Chiefs caught the ball, they stopped them right where they needed to stop them. And I think that's going to be critical. The big one is Travis Etienne. They're not going to get that production. They're not going to get that explosiveness out of one guy. They're going to have to try to put it together with a whole bunch of different people. And that's a shame, because we just got to wait till next year to see what it is that he brings to the table. But I think for the most part, now that they've addressed some of the speed in the wide receiver core with the acquisition of Tyrone Johnson, yeah, I think they're cool. So this is what I said yesterday, and folks got upset at me. Two guys that I trust, because I was busy. I wasn't at the presser, and I did not. I had an invitation to attend, but I didn't. I wasn't in position to attend. I was actually doing something medical. They tweeted that Urban Meyer said his number one concern was wide receiver, the group as a whole. And later on, it was alluded to me. It was told to me that he was alluding to depth. And folks went in on me saying, because I said something about you had all that money in the offseason and all these draft picks, and you didn't address wide receiver. So folks are like, you totally missed it. He was talking about depth. If your number one concern for your team is wide receiver depth, and your number 1, 2, 3, and 4 wide receiver are not injured, that's a problem. Why? I'll tell you why. Is because if your number one concern is your 5th and 6th wide receiver, then that means you must be a damn good football team. I don't think they think they're a damn good football team. That's why I said that's a problem. It only takes one free agent signing or one draft pick to find your 5th wide receiver. Now, I know they thought Travis Etienne was going to play a little bit of that role, but a guy who's a sometime wide receiver isn't going to solve your wide receiver depth. If there was such a need for speed, why didn't you draft one? Y'all heard me for months talk about Marquez Stevens. Went in the 7th round. He returning kicks all over the place for touchdowns and catching bombs in the preseason. It's not that hard to just pick a guy who's fast and develop him, right? They went the retread route. They went and got a whole bunch of former number 1 wide receivers who can't run and who also have history of injuries. It's not rocket science, man, if you think you need to be faster at wide receiver to get a bunch of fast dudes at wide receiver. It's pretty easy. So when y'all riding and jumping on me, he knows this team isn't that good to the point where, you know who worries about their 5th and 6th wide receiver as their number 1 concern before you play one game? Cleveland, Kansas City, Tampa. Yeah. Those are the teams that worry about their fourth and fifth or their fifth wide receiver as your number one concern. The number one concern on this football team should be the offensive line. That's it. So when he tells you that it's the wide receivers as a group, as far as depth is concerned, everybody thinks that depth always comes from the back end. No, depth could mean you don't have that one guy. Like if you had Julio Jones at number one, DJ Chalk's your number two, Chenault's your number three, Marvin Jones is your number four, Agnew's your number five. Then you're not worried about depth at wide receiver, are you? If your frontline guy, or people, when you think depth only means the back end, depth could mean the front end too. The guys you have up front probably need to be your backups, or they need to be down a slot. So if you had that alpha at the front, then these guys would be your depth. The guys that you're depending on right now, they'd be your depth. It's not that hard, man. Y'all it's critical thinking. That's it. I'm not trying to be a smart aleck. I'm just saying that you automatically assume that he's worried about depth, but he's just worried about guys on the back end. So you start throwing names out of me of all the injured guys. Whereas if he had a guy up front who was healthy, you can add to your depth two ways. You can add from the bottom, or you can add from the top and push everybody else down a slot. You see where I'm coming from now? That's what, when he says it's the number one concern, that's it. That's it with a D. D-A-S-S-I-T. That's what I think. Because there's no way that needs to be your number one concern. If y'all can't even name the fifth receiver on Kansas City's team, or you can't even name the fifth receiver on Cleveland's team. And it ain't just because you don't cover the team. It's because you don't care. In the past, you worried about the Jaguars' backup. When Minshew was your starter, you worried about the backup quarterback, didn't you? Well, I don't know. Who is this Luton guy? When they had Foles, you were worried about the backup. This Minshew guy, he's going to back us up. He ain't never played a game, and it's a sixth-round pick. They didn't back. I did it. I told you for years. When they had all those quarterbacks, why don't they go get a real veteran quarterback? When Bortles was your quarterback, you worried about who the backup was, right? Trevor Lawrence is a quarterback now. Are you concerned about the backup? No, because that's the guy who would probably usually start in other years here. That's all, man. Just trying to get. I want y'all to really listen to what people say. I'm trying to understand what they're saying and then go, wow. Don't take the easy bait. The easy bait is you thinking when he says depth that he's just talking about they need to add a guy in the back. That's easy. They just did it today. No, sometimes your depth means you need to add a guy in the front. And everybody else needs to move down a little bit. Because you're going to need a team effort. Well, if you had a number one alpha, he makes everything easy for everybody. Because he's going to get double teamed and those dudes are going to get open. I'll tell you what else is open. The new Locked On Bets podcast hosted by your boy Q and handicapping expert Lee Sterling. Get daily picks, blowout specials, wrong team favorite picks, and Lee Sterling's lock of the day. Follow the Locked On Bets podcast, brought to you by betonline.ag, wherever you get podcasts. It's hump day, man. It's Wednesday, man. We're getting close. We'll see if they add some more players and more additions to the team. Until then, you guys take care of each other, and we'll see you tomorrow here on another episode of Locked On Jaguars. Take care.